The Kaluts of Shahdad are among the world's largest wind-carved yardang fields, stretching over 50 kilometers into an uncanny maze that looks like a petrified city. Do you know that the Hormuz Rainbow Mountains and nearby rainbow beaches carry mineral pigments so intense they paint cliffs and sands in reds, ochres, and cobalt, an occurrence found in only a few places on Earth? Silver Beach along Iran's southern coast is one of the planet's rare silver shores, where sand and tiny shell fragments catch light like strands of metal. Do you know Silver Beach on Keshem Island can appear luminous at dusk, as if the shoreline were dusted with molten silver? Shimmer isn't just pretty. It tells a story of ancient reefs and microscopic minerals ground down over millennia. Walk its length, and you'll find translucent pebbles, fossilized fragments, and the faint sheen of mica concentrated near the high tide line. From Silver Beach, the landscape slides into stubbled mangrove forests that cradle crabs and migratory birds. Those mangroves are connected by tidal channels to the dramatic tide-sculpted cliffs of the Hara ecosystem nearby Itis. Small fishing villages along the coast tie the silver sands to centuries of seafaring and salt trade. Wooden dhow hulls, repaired by hands that learned the craft from Persian Gulf storms, bob quietly in hidden coves. If you follow the shoreline east, the scene gradually shifts toward Hormuz Island's painted earth and copper-red mountains. Scientists visiting for the first time have compared these microhabitats to tiny living museums, preserving species few outside the region have studied. At night, the sands can mirror the Milky Way when the moon is thin, turning the shoreline into a terrestrial galaxy. Couples and solitary travelers linger here, not just for the view, but to feel connected to a coastline that has been quiet for centuries. Every grain here whispers of tectonic shifts, sea level changes, and boisterous waves that sculpted the Persian Gulf's modern face. The next chapter of this coastline is written inland, where salt flats and desert plateaus push the horizon into low, distant mountains. From Silver Beach, you can trace a line of natural wonders that folds into the archipelago of islands and fishermen's lore. Each place trades a piece of its story: sand for shell, reef for cliff, tide for trade, creating a coastal mosaic unlike most other shores. Conservationists worry about rising temperatures and unregulated development, threats that could dull Silver Beach's signature glow. Yet local communities are increasingly turning to sustainable tourism and traditional knowledge to protect the shoreline they rely on. Visiting Silver Beach is not just a stop on a map. It's an encounter with living geology and human history, braided together. As you walk from beach to mangrove to painted island, you'll understand why this stretch of Iran feels like a secret that's finally being told. By day, the sands sing with light, and by evening, they whisper ancient sea songs that have crossed continents. Stay with us, and we'll follow those whispers further along Iran's coast, where every beach leads to another hidden wonder. On Hormuz Island, the Rainbow Mountains are formed from iron, copper, and manganese sediments that paint cliffs and beaches in impossible hues. Do you know the Rainbow Mountains of Hormuz produce pigments so intense that local artisans historically crushed the soils into dyes and paints unique to this island? Walk the red sands, and the ground seems to hum with color, shifting from ruby to ochre to a buttery yellow within a single step. The mineral layers, exposed by wind and tidal shifts, read like a geological fresco recording millions of years of sea and sediment. From the chromatic cliffs, you can trace a path to the glass beach where the sea has smoothed volcanic shards into translucent pebbles that mirror the hills. Travelers often let their fingers skim both the bright soil and the tiny glass stones and feel a direct link between earth and water. The island's tiny villages still use the red and yellow soils in pottery and carpets, a living craft that connects this remote place to ancient Persian color traditions. Crossing the shallow strait to nearby Kayshan, those pigments seem to find a different expression in the archipelago's sculpted valleys and mangrove shadows. By night, the hills cool to pastel shades, and the island's simplicity makes the colors seem almost secret, a natural library of pigments waiting to be read. Scientists who study Hormuz return with samples that rewrite small parts of mineralogy, stunned by how erosion and climate produced such ordered chaos. To stand here is to hold the island's timeline in your palm, from molten deposits to the artisan's kiln. And as you leave the Rainbow Mountains, that same palette travels with you, tinging memories, maps, and the carpets of cities far inland. Hidden pathways carve into salt-encrusted coves where tidal pools concentrate pigments into crystalline blooms used for traditional dyes. No matter where you compare it in Iran, Hormuz's rainbow remains a rare geological handshake between sea, mineral, and human craft. Along the Gulf Coast, Iran's Hara mangrove forests shelter one of the planet's most northerly and most carbon-dense mangrove ecosystems, a rarity in such an arid country. Do you know the Hara mangrove forests can store up to 4 times more carbon per hectare than many temperate woodlands, effectively turning muddy flats into living carbon vaults that help cool our warming seas? Beneath the braided roots, invisible currents nurture nurseries for hundreds of juvenile fish and crustaceans that sustain coastal communities and offshore fisheries. Local fishermen still read the mangroves like a living almanac, timing migrations and harvests by patterns written in bark and tide. At low tide, the forest reveals a labyrinth of hidden channels where ghost crabs, mudskippers, and brittle stars stage a daily ballet unseen on conventional maps. Birds from Siberia and the Indian subcontinent alight on these branches, using Hara as a critical stopover on a flyway that few people in the world associate with Iran. Traditional honey, gathered from flowers among the mangroves, carries a bitter saline perfume prized by islanders on Kashem and Hormuz, linking culinary culture to coastline ecology. Old sailors tell of fireflies and luminous tides that once guided night navigation through the mangroves, a folklore that keeps human memory braided with ecological fact. Remote sensing over the past decades shows patterns of decline and surprising pockets of recovery, revealing how restoration, policy, and a people combine to rewrite the coastline. Walking the salt-streaked boardwalks at dawn, you feel Hara as a threshold between desert and sea, a living bridge that connects islands like Kashm to the Persian Gulf mainland. In the next segment, we'll follow a coastal ecologist and a fisherwoman as they plant mangrove saplings and argue over techniques, showing that Hara's tangled roots are also social threads. Their stories will reveal how a single restored hectare can change fish yields, blunt storm surges, and revive cultural practices nearly lost to modern pressures. By the end, you'll understand why protecting Hara is not just about saving trees, but about preserving an entire coastal logic that sustains life across the Persian Gulf and offers lessons for a changing planet. Rising 5,671 meters above the Caspian Sea basin, Mount Damavand is the highest volcanic peak in Asia and a rare glacier-capped stratovolcano. Do you know that Damavand's summit vents release sulfurous gases that have left colorful mineral rings and sustain tiny moss pockets even above 5,000 meters? Its slopes host persistent snowfields and small glaciers that survive Iran's dry summers, creating microclimates found in few places at comparable latitudes. Local springs and streams born from Damavand's meltwater irrigate citrus orchards near the Caspian and feed ancient qanat systems toward the plateau. Ancient poets and Persian epics placed kings and mythical birds on its flanks, turning geological features into living parts of national myth. Yet scientists tell another incredible story. Beneath its snow lies an enormous magma chamber that has shaped the landscape for hundreds of thousands of years. Climbers come for more than height. They follow a route through volcanic fumaroles that smell of sulfur and past fumarolic ice formations that seem to glow at dawn. Even more surprising, tree-lined and alpine meadows give way within a few kilometers to pumice fields where mineral veins sparkle in sunlit dust. Villages clinging to terraces harvest medicinal herbs that grow nowhere else, their recipes linked to the mountain's mineral-rich soils. Researchers have found endemic plants and insect species on Damavand's slopes, isolated by elevation like islands in the sky. From Tehran's rooftops on clear days, the peak dominates the skyline, a constant reminder of geological force above the urban sprawl. From the summit, rivers feeding the Caspian and Endorheic basins originate within sight, connecting Damavand to the wider hydrology of northern Iran. Every spring, shepherds guide flocks down from high pastures, following patterns unchanged since pre-Islamic times and linking modern life to ancient pastoral rhythms. Mount Damavand therefore stands not only as a geological titan, but as a crossroads where mythology, ecology, and human history converge. the Jame Mosque of Isfahan, this meeting of nature and craft is tangible. Its fabric accumulates 1,000 years of successive styles and functional experiments. The mosque's 4E1 courtyard organizes communal life, while Seljuk domes and Abbasid hypostyles reveal ingenious structural logic in baked brick. Inside, mihrabs, stucco, and calligraphic bands stitch theology to geometry, their surfaces both devotional text and architectural technique. Certain chambers are engineered for sound, where a single utterance can bloom and carry beneath the vaults, an acoustic design as intentional as any decorative scheme. Its tiled minarets and facades prefigure the Safavid masterpieces that crowd the nearby Naqsh-e-Jahan Square, keeping design ideas in lively dialogue across the city. Yet the Jame is not a frozen relic. It remains a working mosque, its floors polished by generations and its courtyards threaded into the rhythm of the bazaar. Restoration here is meticulous. Mortar is matched, fragile tiles conserved, and centuries-old inscriptions stabilized so the structure can continue to speak. Walking from mosque to market, you feel an urban conversation season, where sacred geometry shaped civic space and vice versa, binding daily life to spiritual architecture. Stand beneath its vaults, and you grasp how Iran's harsh deserts and brilliant design traditions together forged buildings that are at once practical, symbolic, and endlessly inventive. The centuries-old Hammam-e Sultan Mir Ahmad in Isfahan hides an unrivaled mosaic of turquoise and lapis tiles that still retain original mineral pigments, rarely preserved anywhere in the world. Do you know that the bath's hypocaust system, designed to heat floors and walls, channels warmth in a pattern that mirrors Isfahan's Safavid urban grid and is unique in its combination of engineering and decorative insight? Stepping through its modest doorway, you enter vaults where the steam once softened skin and softened social barriers, turning the hammam into a living gallery of daily ritual. Tiles here do more than decorate. They encode stories of guilds, pilgrims, and potters whose signatures can be read in the floral motifs and calligraphic bands. The main dome still concentrates light into a single skylight, creating a column of illumination that once guided attendants as they performed cleansing rites. When restoration uncovered hidden colors beneath soot, conservators found pigment formulas that match manuscripts held in Isfahan's libraries, tying material science to cultural memory. Today, the hammam stands as both a relic of daily life and a link in a chain that runs from caravanserai to mosque, from artisan workshop to public square. To walk its passageways is to trace how water, heat, and design shape the rhythms of an entire city, and to discover unexpected connections between private ritual and public grandeur. Taftan rises like a smoking sentinel above the Sistan Plain, its summit punctuated by steaming fumaroles and sulfur-streaked cliffs. Do you know that this towering stratovolcano climbs past 4,000 meters, one of the few active giants visible from a desert floor? Locals follow trails to its lower slopes where mineral-rich hot springs bubble and ancient cairns mark caravan routes. The mountain's skeleton is basalt and andesite, carved by past eruptions into terraces that glow at sunrise. Even in dry seasons, pockets of alpine meadows appear like green islands, hosting endemic plants that survive on mist and mineral-laden soil. Birds of passage use the thermal updrafts to lift themselves over Taftan on migrations between the highlands and the Gulf. At night, the fumaroles plume under a black skionde, and from distant villages the glow can be mistaken for campfires or an approaching storm. Geologists who study Taftan trace its activity to deep faulting along the Arabian and Eurasian plates, a slow-motion geological theater. Trade routes that once skirted its flanks carried spices and stories, and many tales still speak of travelers who sought warmth in its springs. Today, its sparsely dotted slopes are a place where tradition meets science, as elders guide researchers to sulfur vents and healing pools. Despite its remote location, Taftan has a magnetic pull. Photographers, pilgrims, and scientists are drawn to study its contrasts of ice, steam, and stone. Local craftspeople still use the colored minerals to dye wool and create patterns that echo the mountain's striations. Climbing Taftan is not only a physical ascent, but a journey through time, each altitude bringing fossils of past climates and human traces. By standing on its rim, you not only feel the heat of the planet, but hear the long conversations between rock, wind, and water that shape this region. To understand Taftan is to understand how fire lives within an arid land, how life carves niches in extreme places, and how people adapt around persistent heat. In the next segment, we will follow one such route down to a caravanserai, where salt and stories are traded, a human echo of Mount Taftan's volcanic voice. Those who listen carefully can still hear the mountain's slow breathing, an ancient rhythm that measures epochs rather than years. And when Taftan sleeps, its legacy lives on in wells, walls, and rituals that keep its molten story part of everyday life. Persepolis crowns a vast limestone terrace carved into the lower Zagros, its platform stretching farther than an Olympic stadium. Do you know Persepolis's reliefs depict more than 20 subject nations bringing tribute, each figure carved with such exactness that ethnic dress and musical instruments are still recognizable today? Built by Darius III and expanded by Xerxes, it was less a city than a ritual stage, where empire and ceremony fused into stone. The Apadana's columns once rose over 20 meters, their capitals carved with bulls, griffins, and human figures that supported cedar and gold-laden roofs. Every stairway tells a story. Low reliefs of delegations climbing upward, offering exotic goods, while royal processions march toward the throne room. Those stairs connect the public world to an inner sanctum of inscriptions, royal names, and astronomical motifs that hint at a calendar of power. You can still trace the lines where ancient artisans measured and leveled, their precision implying a workforce of engineers unmatched for its age. Against the terrace's pale limestone, the shadows of carved soldiers and courtiers remain unnervingly vibrant in morning light. The gate of all nations still greets you with colossal figures meant to intimidate and to reassure, a diplomatic theater in stone. Look closely, and the bas-reliefs reveal the empire's reach. Camels from Arabia, tattooed Scythians, and Persian administrators tallying tribute. Persepolis's scale was not mere vanity. It was an architectural language asserting rulership across climates and cultures. As we move from these ceremonial steps toward the quiet of surrounding foothills, the story continues, of conquest, memory, and the endurance of stone. Centuries of visitors have added their own marks, names scratched in Greek, oil from votive lamps, even 19th century travelers' sketches that helped modern reconstruction. Today, walking those terraces connects the present to a past where politics, pilgrimage, and performance met under an imperial scheme. To truly understand Persepolis is to read its layers, geology and craft, ritual and ruin, each layer a clue to how empire imagined itself. And as we leave its carved stairways behind, the next chapter takes us down into the necropolis, where kings carved their final proclamations in stone. Beneath Tehran's skyline and miles beyond, Iran's Dasht-e-Lut holds some of the hottest ground temperatures on Earth, carving surreal Yardang ridges across a salt and sand canvas. Do you know that the Dashti Kavir and Lut deserts, both in Iran, shape mirages and salt formations so alien, they once misled early cartographers? From those windswept plains, the story of Iran funnels into its cities, where stone, memory, and politics meet under one arch. The Azadi Tower in Tehran stands as that meeting point, its soaring white form both monument and mirror to centuries of Persian identity. Designed by Hossein Amanat and unveiled in 1971 for the 500th anniversary of the Persian Empire, its original name was Shahdad Tower. After the 1979 revolution, it was renamed Azadi, or Freedom, and the plaza around it became a stage for national celebration and dissent alike. Living Chronicle. And if you peer up through the arch at dusk, the silhouette seems to thin into an invitation to trace Iran's deserts, palaces, and people as one continuous story. Few buildings so centrally placed ask so many questions about memory, power, and how nations narrate themselves across space. In the next chapter, we'll follow those narratives along the avenues that lead from Azadi Tower to the heart of Old Tehran and beyond. For now, remember that Azadi is not merely a monument, but a hinge between desert and city, past and present, silence and protest. Its marble keeps the echoes, and the city keeps moving, pulling visitors deeper into stories they never knew were written into stone. Hoz-e Soltan Salt Lake is one of the planet's few inland basins where seasonal floods sculpt vast polygonal salt crusts so reflective they erase the horizon. Do you know that Hoz-e Soltan can flip from a glassy pink mirror that hosts thousands of migratory flamingos to a blinding white salt desert within weeks? In the wet months, halophilic microorganisms tint the shallow brine, a surreal rose, turning the entire basin into an otherworldly landscape that confounds maps. In the dry season, wind and sun carve the crust into honeycombed plates and delicate crystalline roses that clatter like porcelain when walked upon. Local salt harvesters still cut the lake's hard pans by hand, shaping blocks used for centuries and preserving a ritual economy that predates modern borders. Beneath that apparent emptiness, sediments lock a climatic diary, layers of salt and mud that researchers read to trace droughts, floods, and ancient river shifts. Birds navigating the migratory highway use Hoz-e Soltan, as a last refueling stop, and the flocks transform the mirror into moving tapestries of pink and black. The lake's sheen plays tricks. Mirages and inverted reflections have guided caravans and confounded early explorers, blurring the line between sky and earth. Walk the rim at dawn, and you'll find fossilized salt domes and basalt outcrops that mark where ancient waters once pooled far deeper than anyone imagined. Follow the drainage channels, and they lead toward the great central deserts, stitching Hoz-e Soltan into a vast web of salt lakes, dunes, and caravan routes. Scientists bring back samples that reveal extremophile microbes thriving in near-saturated brine, organisms that teach us how life might survive on other worlds. Photographers chase the fleeting moments when wind, light, and water align, and the lake becomes a perfect, pixelated canvas reflecting the sky. Yet this fragile theater faces modern pressures: water diversion, changing rainfall, and industrial salt extraction that can turn the seasonal miracle into permanent dust. Understanding Hoz-e Soltan's cycles is not just poetic. It's a key piece in preserving the livelihoods and migratory paths that depend on this shifting salina. In the next chapter, we'll trace one of those channels across salt flats toward a forgotten caravan post where human history and geological time collide. Stay with us to uncover how a single, salty basin rewrites the story of this region's climate, culture, and survival. We will cross into the salt-smudged plains that once fed merchants and later fed scientists' curiosity, bridging natural wonder and human endeavor. What seems like barren white turns out to be a living archive. If we listen, Hoz-e Soltan speaks of water, climate, and the delicate balance that sustains life here. The Kaluts of Shahdad are one of the tallest sand-sculpted badlands on Earth, with towering ridges carved over millennia by relentless wind. Do you know the Kaluts of Shahdad line the eastern edge of the Dasht-e Lut, a desert that registers some of the planet's hottest ground temperatures? From satellite maps, they appear like a sleeping army of dark spines stretching into the horizon. On the ground, they become narrow labyrinths where sunlight and shadow chase each other across ochre walls. Wind-driven erosion cuts deep gullies between the ridges, leaving pinnacles and mesas that look impossible in sand. Beneath those sculpted walls lie ancient fluvial layers, traces of wetter eras when rivers braided through this basin. Nomads and caravans once skirted these formations, guided by faint wells and the occasional tamarisk tree. The Kaluts served as natural compass points, linking Shahdad to the oases and the routes toward Kerman and Bam. At dawn, the sandstone catches light in bands of copper and purple, and at dusk the same ridges seem to vanish. Scientists have measured temperatures here that challenge life, yet microscopic communities cling to shaded crevices. Hidden among terraces, you can still find pottery shards and the charcoal remains of ancient fires. Those fragments hint at human stories woven between climatic swings, migration, and survival. From the Kaluts, you can see on clear days the distant silhouette of volcanic peaks that fed the soils below. That geological connection binds this surreal landscape to mountain ranges and salt flats far beyond the dunes. Photographers chase the golden hours here, but the truest impression is the silence, broken by wind and the slow shifting of sand. Travelers who leave quietly carry with them an unsettling certainty. These formations are still being written by time and weather. To follow the Kaluts is to read a long, eroded manuscript of Earth's climate and human perseverance. And as night falls, the sky above Shahdad blooms with stars, reminding us how small and temporary these sand cathedrals truly are. Kandovan village in Iran harbors some of the world's only continuously inhabited cone-shaped homes, carved directly into volcanic tuff. Do you know Kandovan's cone houses were shaped not by modern architects, but by villagers hollowing out cooled ash and lava from ancient eruptions of Mount Damavand? Families here live inside rock chimneys whose walls are centuries old, with rooms stacked and tunnels winding like a natural apartment block. Visitors often expect ruins, but Kandovan remains alive with markets, children, and events that still smoke from cave doorways. The formation of these cones began when eruptions deposited thick layers of ash that later hardened into soft tuff, perfect for sculpting by hand. Over generations, residents expanded cavities into kitchens, stables, and cool cellars that regulate temperature year-round without electricity. Walking from one carved doorway to the next is to traverse layers of geology, craft, and memory all at once. By the time you leave Kandovan, the village's quiet ingenuity has already begun to change how you picture human adaptation to extreme landscapes. Later in this film, we'll follow those lines from Kandovan's cones into the carved palaces of the plateau, revealing unexpected continuities. You will see how rock and people shaped each other across centuries, and why Kandovan remains one of Iran's most unforgettable living monuments. Prepare to meet the villagers whose recipes, songs, and repairs keep those stone rooms functioning in the 21st century. Their stories will unspool like the narrow passages themselves, surprising you with resilience, humor, and unexpected modern touches. From the blasted record-breaking heat of the Lut Desert, where sand sings and ground temperatures have soared higher than anywhere else on Earth, the story of this land reads like a collection of contradictions. From those molten plains, the camera moves to the green iron-clad trunks of the Hyrcanian forests, ancient woodlands that survived when much of Eurasia turned to steppe. Then the ridges of the Zagros and the snow crown of Mount Damavand rise, a dead volcano that looms as the highest peak in the Middle East and a mythic sentinel for millennia. Shift again to the saline ghosts of Lake Urmia, a once vast inland seascape now carved into salt islands that tell a cautionary tale of human impact and resilience. Persepolis and the columned ruins of ancient empires fold history into the landscape, their stones whispering stories that still shape identity and art today. The sunlit courtyards of Shiraz and the river bridges of Isfahan weave gardens, poetry, and mirror-like pools into daily life, keeping beauty and philosophy in ordinary moments. Keshim's geologic labyrinths, the Valley of the Stars, and the murmuring salt plains connect the human and the natural, revealing how land shapes livelihoods. Across villages and bazaars, you'll still hear ancient languages, taste dishes unchanged for centuries, and meet people whose crafts map migratory routes and imperial trades. This is a place where extremes meet: scorching deserts and temperate rainforests, volcanic summits and salt flats, and where every turn raises another question. If there's a single truth to carry away, it is that Iran's landscapes are not just backdrops to history. They are active participants in it, reshaping culture and destiny. Hold on to the images you've seen and the mysteries hinted at, because every hidden spring, carved ruin, and migrating flock is an invitation to reyours and to look closer. Let curiosity be the map you follow, and let these paradoxes of heat and rain, ruin and renewal, keep pulling you deeper into the story. The real journey begins after the last frame, when the questions we leave with become the reasons we come back.